So rhythm is really like a heartbeat. Your heart beats naturally, so too is rhythm. When you hear a drum play, when it's African or the Tasa, you feel it in your heart.
It's just something about the heart connecting with that frequency.
That's your first metronome. That's the one where you keep your timing of yourself, your timing of life, your timing of breath. And that's all these things is what transpose into the drum. Drum is a very spiritual, rhythmic, invocational instrument that represents a lot of things. For us as Trinidadians, the Africans would use the drums and the sound of the drums to send messages from one plantation to the next plantation. It's just that sometimes just to send a message, just to let them know when it's the time for we to revolute.
The East Indians came in 1845. So when our forefathers came from India on the Strata they brought with them several instruments with them. One of them being the tabla, the other one being the dolak. So this is where the first set of drums actually came from India to the West Indies. You know, they worked in the plantations, in the sugar fields. That was their way of relaxation in the evening. Music is an integral part of celebration. It is an integral part of religious worship.
Let's start with the Nagara drums, which came as Nagara drums and evolved into what we call the Tasa. The Tasa was originally two drums, and they sat on the ground and they played it. And the bass was just on the side there, and the tenor is on the right side. And they will give you all the Tasa sound from that. Now, when they came to Trinidad, it wasn't practical to have seating. Later on now, people in Trinidad wanted to use the Tasa for Indian, mainly related to marriage. On the cooking night of a wedding, is what you call the matkur. It's a kind of initiation thing. They have very, 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 very hot kind of singing, and they needed the Tasa for that. So the fellows in them started to put the Tasa around their neck, and they created a drum with two sides to it. That's what makes the Tasa indigenous. Then you have what is called the dholak. That is also the most popular drum, Indian drum in Trinidad. It is used for soca, it is used for chutney. It's the main drum used for chutney, and it is used for all the women's songs.
So a lot of people actually don't teach the dolak formally, because like how if I hit tune on the tabla, da, te, 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 but the dolak, anywhere you hit, you get the same song unless you hit in the middle there, right? But the same like if I play that on the dolak,
then we have the tabla.
So the tabla is one of those instruments that you learn, is like learning a new language. Because for everything that we play, there's a name of that particular sound. Like this sound here is known as ta or na. This is tun. This is te te. This is dha ge. This is tirikit. Right? So everything that we play, if we play da da tirikit da da tu na ta ta tirikit da da ji na. Right? So everything that we play, dati da ge na da tirikit dati da ge tu da ke na. Tati-taki na that, dali-dali din again.
They have one called the dhol, which is a two-sided drum, a little bigger than the dholak. There's one called the kanjari. It is a small drum. It's covered with iguana skin. It has a bell on it. So when you're playing it, you can hit it in such a way that the bell will sound at one time, and then the bass will sound, and it is squeezed with this, so the skin will go. You could get that out of it.
The drum plays a great significance in a lot of things for African tradition, from weddings to funerals to parties, festivities, and a lot of spiritual significance as well too.
I remember when one of my cousins died, it was a whole big celebration at the wake. You know, the nights of the wake, each night would have a different something. Each night would have bongo, each night would have tamboo bamboo, and that was just going on and on and on. That whole idea of celebration. When I learned to play drums, I learned that this rhythm goes with this dance, you know. This particular dance goes with this particular type of food, you know. So culturally, it's all a melting pot of things that go cohesively together and not just in isolation.
Growing up around drummers, there's a certain discipline and understanding about the drum. So with anything spiritual, there must come some form of an order. One of the main things is to do crossover a drum. You know, that some of the things may come across superstitious, but it may have some significance based on showing the instrument a certain level of respect.
Alright, so a lot of people hear the drums, but they don't actually see the drums or know the drums. So this is the smallest one. It's the omele. It's the highest pitch, and it's played with two sticks. Some people call it two crook sticks. These sticks are made out of pesi, the bow, which is the lowest pitched, right? And then you have the center, the ear drum or big drum, some people call it, you know, everybody has different name for it. Nowadays, if you listen to the more prominent singers like Tala and that kind of thing, you would hear. Right? A little fuller sound, but it's straighter. I like the old school. And even in South, because I'm from South Trinidad, a lot of the times, especially when we play for ancestors, we try to play that old school hand. Because it's said that you want to charm the ancestors to come and be in this space, and you have to play what they know. Alright? So we play that old school hand. Singing, if you're singing for ancestors,
Yoruba have a great significance based on the musical contributions. So like the music that you would play in your orisha pallies as invocational music, the hands for Oshun and Ogun and Shango and Oyan to call them, it have a great close significance based on the rhythmic structure of the rhythmic scale, but the rhythmic scale coming from that orisha invocational music connected to our calypso rhythm and our soca. Calypso is where you would hear Santi Manite and they singing calypso with like the traditional calypso. Rhythm is important in us as humans and the way we relate to life in general.
When we breathe in a rhythm. When we walk in a rhythm. So it would be a natural sort of gravitation towards one another in terms of a rhythmic structure.
Even when we having a conversation, it's a rhythm. Or even in an argument, that is also a rhythm. It just might be more hastiness within the argument and more harsh words, but it's also a rhythm.
So one of the main differences between the African drums and the Indian drums is the tonal quality. As you can hear, the kind of tone that we get from the tabla, from a djembe or from a big African drum, you may not get that type of sound. You know, there's the smaller djembe will give you a very high-pitched sound, something like what the dolak will give you.
Djembes, based on the tuning, will give you different tones. So the higher djembes will give you. So even if you want to play something sounding like a Indian kind of style, you can play it.
Initially, when somebody was going to learn dolak by one of the ustads or one of the great dolak players, they would say, okay, all right, let me learn a beat today. So we're going to learn this beat, right? It sounds something like this. Pick him up and knock him down, pick him up and knock him down, pick him up and knock him down, pick him up and knock him down. Because that's the language they found it sounded like, pick him up and knock him down.
Each drum has a language. If you go to a space or any dance group or any folk group, long time they used to have belly feast and stuff. There's a particular hand that you would play for belly. Dance belly, go dance belly, kata. Drums in itself is the driving force behind every type of music there is in Trinidad and Tobago culture, regardless of what it is. Soca, parang, calypso, you name it. There's some form of percussive element that is, you know, significant too.
We're talking about indigenous things that originated from Trinidad, but could only originated from a meeting of two races. And Soca is one of those things.
Soca is a combination of East Indian and African rhythms. So there was a combination of the two main rhythmic structures in Trinidad to create a song that would be totally Trinidadian. Let us call it a Douglas rhythm. I tried to combine the East Indian rhythm and the African rhythm together. I did all the songs on the album, 10 songs on the album with the dolak. And everybody started condemning me, oh, I'm trying to play Indian, I'm trying to mix the Indian music with the calypso and it can't work and da.
In those days, the races were very polarized. It wasn't like now. And fellas said, nah, you can't bring no dolak in our music because that dolak they use.
In 1974, when I went back to the studio, I did Endless Vibration. I took the rhythmic structure from the dolak, and I put it on the drum set. So that nobody could say, I'm doing Indian music. So I just take the accent, put it on the drum set, and then I get a name, and I say, Soca, S-O-K-A-H. The K-A-H represents the East Indian influence.
And that is where that Soca thing started. We fool ourselves to believe that we have our own autonomy. But culture is not like that. Culture always borrows from its environment. And nothing is wrong with that, except that we have our own ethnic pride and we want to say, well, this is we own it. But that in Trinidad. Trinidad do have that.
I must say that I'm happy to have been born in a country like Trinidad where we have the two major ethnic groups. We live in harmony and share our cultural talents that we have. The African had his drum through which he expressed himself. The drum was banned in 1877, and then we had the Houston massacre around 1884, where a lot of East Indians were killed in San Fernando. So they both have serious significance and would have had their own challenges because on both sides, the powers that be, they oppose because the drums united. After the drum was banned, we had the advent of the Tamboo bamboo. The Tamboo is the French word for drum. So it means bamboo drum. And they cut the bamboo and they cut it in different lengths and so. But they found with this bamboo, they're busting their foot and their toe and all kind of things.
How long a bamboo really stay if you're knocking on this thing whole time? You understand? So they were splitting. By the time they reached from probably South Key there to reach down in Tongue, your bamboo split. So they had to get something that is more robust.
According to history and knowledgeable people who wrote, the first Steelpan was that Alexander Ragtime band. And this band, which came out of the Calvary Tamboo Bamboo band, then people started to use the pan, they hit it in, and then they pong it back out. And then they realize that you get a little song from it. And they have given credit to Winston Simon. So the pan started to evolve. And then you had Eddie Manette and all these Neville Jules and Bertie Marshall, St. James, you had Tony Williams who brought wheels pan in 1956.
A lot of the tenor players in particular in the Steelpan yard, which has a similar history to, the Shango yard being a place of refuge, them going to really free a spirit, have that energy of doing what you love, a lot of the Omele men, they were the tenor players, and the reason for that is the whole dexterity behind playing an Omele is very, very intricate. You have to be able to know how to roll, you have to be able to know different patterns, and it's a similar technique that you could transfer onto the tenor pan. The velocity, like you have to play these long runs, understand the rolls from the different notes is the same ideology that applies from the Omele to the tenor pan.
We don't think to talk about, again, emotionally, pressure that some of those pan men underwent. The pressure. They get locked up.
Because the sweat and tears of the people to bring out instruments is something that has to be noted.
Something that was so much vagabond culture, as they used to say. Now you have Steelpan players who are professors, adjunct lecturers, virtuosos at their instrument. To see it on our coat of arms.
The pan has to have its place. It's the only instrument invented in the 20th century. From rubbish.
Something that the drum in itself was responsible for. To exclude the drum is to exclude ourselves.
We have given the world something. We should be proud of it.